So funny thing about time, huh? With time, it seems like there's either not enough of it or too much of it. It seems like we only have two choices. I know the Western mind is like, okay, yeah, right, when is there ever too much time? And my response is, I'll ask you again 3 hours into your 7-day silent retreat. When I was sitting with what to talk about this Sunday, I just decided, as opposed to doing any kind of research or talking with friends and family and folks, I just kind of sat, allowed something to bubble up, and I put out the Facebook event. And then I'm looking at it going, timelines, timetables, and timeouts. Whew, this could be quite a daunting task. And then I started getting into looking at articles and stories and books and songs and poems. Do you have any idea how much stuff has been written on time? It is as vast as time itself. I found out about an asankaya. You know what an asankaya is? It is Buddhist cosmology. This is a Buddhist theory of the cosmos. And the idea is that it starts, this is one asankaya is from the Big Bang. All the planets and galaxies and asteroids and everything begin moving outward. And scientists and physicists have shown us that yes, indeed, the universe is expanding into something, we don't know what. But they've also said that we think it's slowing down, giving us the idea that maybe it's actually going to begin to start back the other way. And so at some point, this is all going to come together again to cause another Big Bang. That's one asankaya. The time that it takes from the Big Bang for the universe to expand and then begin to contract back into another Big Bang. That's one asankaya. And that's also how much stuff there is written on time. Experience is always our teacher. So there I am with the experience of looking at vast amounts of information written on time, and the realization came upon me that that is not why I am here, is to tell you guys about all the different things that are written about time. It is to share my experience on this topic. And so, let's dive in. I have had some interesting experiences with time, especially this week when the universe blurted this out onto Facebook. And I actually began realizing that I've had some interesting experiences with time, and I've been completely ignorant and aware of it much of my life. So first, I want to talk about music. Many of you know that I like to play music, play guitar a little, ukulele, different things. And so I began looking at time in relation to that. When I'm playing music, I don't actually have any idea whether the song is 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Some people have told me after 15, it's like, okay, you need to end this song. I have no idea about that. Time takes on a totally different feeling. It becomes a rhythm, a flow. It has nothing to do with 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It has to do with almost like heartbeats, just a flow, a rhythm. So that's one relationship to time. I, this week, was looking at time with friends and how chatting and relating and joking and laughing, time, wow, time is fast. Zip, it's gone. Interestingly enough, in relation to time and friends, there's a longing, wanting to have spent more time with certain friends. And you know who you are. Loved ones, family members. So there's a longing aspect to time in relation to friends. I noticed that this week. I hadn't been conscious of it before. I just wished I'd spent more time with somebody. And then I go into kicking myself for not having called them. Or I come up with all kinds of blame and reasons why we're not spending time together. Getting kind of locked into the dukkha. I noticed time and unskillful patterns of behavior or speech in this form. My teacher, who's been with me for many, many years, told him this week that I was going to call him a certain day at a certain time. I said, I'll call you about 10:30. And things happened, and I got busy, and was doing some stuff. And then when I looked at the clock, it was like 10:50. So I'm like, oh! So I quickly picked up the phone and I called him. And man, did I get an earful. I got chewed out. He says, I do not appreciate being treated this way. When you say you're going to call at 10:30, you call at 10:30. My job is not waiting around for you for 20 minutes. And I was like, ooh, boy, wow. I apologized. And I got Buddha whacked because when I sat with what was going on with that, some interesting things came up. In meditation, I noticed, what is this thing with time and not calling somebody, or getting busy, not respecting the time of others. And what I noticed was 22 years of teaching high school, I lived for 22 years on 50-minute increments. The bell would go off every 50 minutes, and that would mean something. I didn't salivate, but I would begin changing handouts and what to do here and there. And then if you know anything about school lunches, you know I didn't salivate, ever. So I simply would just begin changing. But as I sat with that, as I move into a new chapter and phase in my life, there's a resentment there of having to live in 50-minute increments. There's a little aversion there to any kind of a set time. And of course, this gets projected and played out as to not really respecting the time of others. It's just because it was a set time. I'll show you. I'm enlightened. I don't have to pay attention to time. Time's an illusion. Oh, until I got Buddha whacked by my teacher. Says, it may be an illusion, but you better call me at 10:30 when you say you're going to call me. It becomes a matter of respect. Time can also have a little bit of a jagged nudge, especially when I see the effects of time. My relationship with my mother, seeing her deteriorate, unable to see, hear, think anymore, concentrate. When I see the effects of time, it has a sharp edge to it in that respect. When I look generally at my relationship to time, there's a hurried, rushed relationship that I have with time. It seems I'm always behind it, never quite in front of it. There's even a playful aspect to time. How many of you guys have ever looked at the clock and it says 4:44? And then you do that for 2 or 3 days in a row. Every time I look at the clock, for 3 days in a row it says 4:44. What does it all mean? Or have you ever taken a nap and told yourself, I'm going to wake up at exactly 1:23, and then you take a nap, and then if you do wake up at 1:23, I'm in flow with the universe. Or if you don't, you can blame something or somebody. I love George Carlin's take on time. We've got all these calendars, the Aztec calendar, the Chinese calendar, and the Western calendar. They're all off by 500 or 600 years. We've got daylight savings time and time zones. Some people know where they are. No one knows when we are. So my talk today really is not so much about the malleable, arbitrary nature of time, because George and Buddhism agree that time really is an illusion. It is something that we're just making up. It's something that we've created to help us measure and meet together at certain times. There are cultures, the folks in Fiji, on Fiji Island, have a totally different perspective of time than we do. When you tell somebody in Fiji, someday I'm going to build a wall over there, they'll be like, you want me to start on that now? Because in Fiji, if it's not now, it's just not. They don't really even celebrate birthdays and things like that because it's just everything's very, very present. So the teaching today is not so much on that as it is on our Buddhist approach in our daily life and our practice to time. So what I want to emphasize and cannot emphasize enough is our meditation practice, and specifically retreat. Whether it's a day long, 3 days, 5, a week, a month, the importance of retreat and true meditation. Guided meditations that are on your iPhone or on YouTube, they're wonderful. They have an amazing, they're an amazing tool for us to use in our practice. Single point meditations, using a candle or chanting, all of these viable, wonderful practices. But true meditation, sitting on the cushion and experiencing silence, stillness, deep vastness, and being with that for an extended amount of time. Here's why. True meditation or retreat brings about a shift of consciousness for us. And the way that it shifts our consciousness is by providing a profound contrast to our normal mode of operation. It is through contrast in our practice that we can develop a deep clarity of being. And here's what I mean. It is only because of rest. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We only know rest because we know busy. We only know calm because we know frantic. We only know quiet because we know loud. We only know true giving and how that translates into receiving. We only can be pardoned by pardoning. And here comes the kicker. We know mortality because something in us is immortal. Being aware of contrast brings about a foundation to our practice that truly builds clarity of each and every experience, being aware of the contrast. Retreat and true meditation are what exposes the illusion of time to us. What we are has never been born and can never die. Awareness, consciousness, Buddha nature, Buddha mind. That is who we are. And it is through true meditation, especially in the form of retreat, that we gain clarity and understanding true embodiment of this illusion of time and who we really are. Consciousness does not exist in time. True meditation exposes this, helps us to really see our true nature. When my mind-body identifies with the past, suffering arises in the form of regret or shame. When my teacher Buddha whacked me the other day, I pouted for 2 hours. I sulked. Do you see the identification with the past? I was not present. My mind-body was involved in something that happened 2 hours ago. That's not reflection either. That's true identification with the past. When my mind-body is identifying with the future, suffering arises in the form of fear and anxiety about what's going to happen, about what am I going to say, what am I going to do. There's an identification, there's movies running in my head, fear and anxiety arise. When the mind-body stops identifying altogether and is just present, grounded in awareness of thoughts, feelings, sensations, just aware of them, not tied into them, then what arises is simply what I am called to do in the moment. Speak, laugh, cry, drive, plan. Planning can be an intensely present moment experience. I'm not caught up in what's going to happen. I'm present and I know that I am planning now for my trip next week. And I'm present about the things that I am preparing. Not caught up in how they're actually going to unfold, whether or not they are going to unfold, and what happens when they do unfold. Poor little head. God. There's a great story of the monk who's walking along the path, and as he's about to take the next step, he notices a deadly snake right there in front of him. And instantly he jumps back. And the snake, as surprised to see him as he was, it quickly slithers off into the bushes. And the monk, being very present and aware, notices how the mind and the body begin to, you almost died. You see, in the moment that he reacted and jumped back, there was no fear. There was only presence. It was the split second after that that the mind got involved with what could have happened. Well, what would you have done had you gotten bitten? Screamed out, tried to run back? What would you do? What notes would you scribble and say, poor little head, oh my gosh, there it goes. Not present. The beauty is that true presence always knows what to do. True presence always knows what to say. When you speak from a place of being caught up in the past, what comes out is you're probably going to get Buddha whacked. It's going to be an experience where you get to learn and understand something. If you speak from a place of future, if I sit here and I address my Sangha thinking that if I say really good stuff, they're going to like me, they're going to come back next week, if I'm caught up in that, I am not present. I'm absorbed in the future. How to make sure everybody comes back next week. It's not presence. I like what Eckhart Tolle has to say. Nothing ever happens that is not in the now. And the more that I work with connecting with this precious moment and seeing the nature of the mind-body, and here's the beauty of it as well. If you check in and you find yourself suffering, you will always find an aspect of past and future with it. Always. Nothing ever happens that is not in the now. And I want to read to you a brief paragraph from Mark Nepo, a wonderful author and poet who is also a practitioner of Buddhist ideals and philosophies. And he says this about now. It is common to get distracted by working to stay in the moment above all else. But these blessings of complete immersion will happen. We don't have to work at them. I am learning that when present in the moment, I view life more deeply. I meet life through an awakened sensibility, and I make more peaceful decisions. From the experience of oneness that the moment opens, I am engaged with my heart and consider life choices from that felt eternal perspective. When tripping along the gravel of circumstance, not able to enter any moment, I am engaged with my mind, trying to stay alert, trying to negotiate the obstacles of life without falling all over the place. From the press of isolated experience, the mind, feeling out of control, tries to control everything. From the felt knowledge of the web of life, the heart tries to participate in the rush of life of which it is a part. Like all of us, I struggle with both, trying to control what happens and at the same time trying to participate in what happens. Today, I feel clear enough to share these reflections. And if this makes sense to you, please remind me when you find me next week, stirring my coffee nervously, staring off into the future while biting my bottom lip.